Conversations about integration in East Africa as well as policies have been on and on and on for some time now. But what I haven't had is a conversation about integration in the East African education system, where you can freely join a new level of education in any East African country for as long as you're part of the East African community. Transitioning from one education system to another in East Africa becomes hectic, yet we are all in the same region. Welcome to episode 3 with me, Shiba Nakakande, your host at the MCI Media Hub at Tirupati Mazima Mall. In today's episode, I am joined by Belinda Amanya, the 6th Speaker of the East African Youth Parliament, with insights about integration in East Africa. Hi Belinda, welcome to the Edu Spect Podcast. You are very, very welcome.
My name is Belinda Amanya. I could say I am so many things, but in all those so many things, I am a law student at Gulu University in my final year. I've been serving as the 6th Speaker of the East African Youth Parliament. I currently serve as the Vice Chairperson of the European Union Youth Sounding Board. More to that, I am an orator. I love speaking any day, anytime, and engaging with young people.
Yes, so how was your experience being the East African Youth Parliament Speaker?
Then it felt like I'm just chairing a session, chairing a debate. No more things. I've been speaking, so moderating a discussion on the floor of such a youth parliament would be fine. But after that, I realized East African youth leadership spaces have not been tapped in. The youth are a bit green about some of these things. So now the part of the calling starts to itch me, and it is, how do I just sit comfortably holding a position? I remember I went to the office of Right Honorable Rebecca Kadaga, the First Deputy Prime Minister, and it is, you don't just emerge, you're just a young person. You work and build a name that creates credibility. It's like, yes, you've gotten the position, it comes with nothing, see how you utilize it.
You involved so much with the youth, especially those in schools. Could you please elaborate more on that, why you were so engaged with these young minds during your time when you were speaker, even though you still do that today, but it was so much evident at that time when you were speaker?
We started to have trips around. We're having ESC youth seminars. What do the youth in East Africa think about this? We had one in Uganda, we went to Tanzania, we went to Kenya, we went to Rwanda, and we're still moving. Journeys keep moving depending on availability of resources. But then also back home, it was, I'm coming from Uganda, what do I do here? I have a soft spot for young people, especially those in secondary school. I don't know, I see the young me in them. And so when I was invited to certain secondary schools, reaching there and talking to them, telling them my journey and also telling them about the ESC, it is something they were inspired to know about. Okay, we didn't know the East African integration concerns young people. We didn't know we can benefit from, let's say, exchange programs that are maybe academic or so. And so when it went on like that, I started to see more things I could do. I said, okay, if I could go to the school and talk to them, mentor them, do a bit of mentorship, and then ESC, we're building potential. Even in other countries, how do I build a synergy with young people there, talk to them, tell them about East African integration, but also understanding that it is important. And East African integration is the integration of the people, not just bodies, not just politicians, but the people themselves.
How do you think the integration in education can be strengthened in East Africa?
I think it is something that needs to be inspired from the top to bottom. If there are opportunities, because I know I will need an exchange program with UDOM, University of Dodoma, so me as a student at Gulu University, I need to know how to interact with them and do business with them or learn from them. So I think it is possible, but the youth just need to see Funilawa, which is everything everyone really wants. So it is, what are the pulling factors there that make this attractive, or else I keep in my... Exactly. So with the integration, when you look at the whole picture of integration, we talk about one money economy, meaning when it gets to trade and business, I can carry my shillings, or maybe if we have an East African shilling that is neutral, I can carry my shillings and go do business in Kenya or Tanzania without any hindrance. These days you go there, you're seeing something is costing maybe 500 Kenya shillings, and you think, that's cheap, because in your head, return or 500 shillings really looks so basic. Yet equivalent to Uganda could be higher. About integration of people, we look at academia, we look at work. Am I able to come, let's say as a law student, we've been having a question of a Kenyan lawyer coming to Uganda and wanting to practice the law. But with an integration of the people, I am able to come with my practicing certificate from Uganda, be able to go through in Kenya and be a lawyer there, be able to work in various spaces. If I have a CPA in Uganda, is it the similar one? I could go to Tanzania and apply for a job and work there. So as young people, the faster we understand that we need to broaden our scope of tapping into spaces. And first, I think I like it with a Kenyan youth. It is, we see a niche here, I think we can go into it. We can, spread our wings all over. So if we can have that agility and flexibility and vision to see that there are broader opportunities we can create and expand academia, jobs, and so many things, then I think it is an important space that youth should actually look at as fresh ground, starting with the Youth Council that is yet to be put into place and the youth policy at the ESC. It is something every youth needs to pick interest in and see how they position themselves for a greater world outside the boundaries of maybe your district, your university, your country, and also the region itself, and Africa and the globe at a bigger picture.
Fine, the young people in East Africa are carrying out trade, but how can they better understand the business of trade fused with integration?
Potential of a common market, we're having a common market. And with common markets, I do look at our young people as very innovative. When you get to listen to the various ideas young people have in relation to business, in relation to various activities. I have people that have listed travel companies and they're moving all around, and that is integration. You're taking people from Uganda to another country, and all of that. You're having a market, having a business, you're having an organization. We have organizations that are running in, even Liga Vijana. We run Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, all over, building a synergy. So there is that.
Let's talk about the funding at the ESC and people moving from one country to another. How is youth involvement in the funds that are put up by bodies that bring together countries in the East African community?
When I became Speaker of the East African Youth Parliament and there was this article in the Daily Monitor, I felt like I'm one of those young people that have stepped out to put my country or represent my fellow youth at a regional scene. So seeing all those various activities and funding programs that are yet to come up, we have policies that are being shaped. Who informs the policies at the ESC without the young people being there or putting their voice there? So many challenges. You get to the border of Tanzania and there are a bunch of questions and you just can't go through. Where are you going? Where are you going to stay? Who do you know? How long are you going to be there? What are you going to do? Where will you be sleeping? And it's as though it's another mini visa kind of like application. Yet crossing to Tanzania, I need my ID. To Kenya, I need my ID, and it is Karibu Kenya. Enter through. You're done. Immigration stamped. Go in without so many restrictions.
The youth involvement in the ESC. What percentage are young people in these bodies, and are they able to influence policy, or they are just put there for representation? Just we have a youth on the board, but they are really not able to influence policy, or they are not decision makers. Like, how is the youth involvement in the ESC?
At the ESC, I could say it is slim. In March, I attended the ESC sitting. It was in Nairobi, and I think that was the time they were passing the youth caucus. And by the ESC Youth Caucus, all that was simply being put forth is that there are people who are biologically below the threshold of 35. Therefore, by luck, you become youth. Perhaps we have countries, I'm told one of the ESC countries says you're a youth up to 45. So with such, there's a lot of uncoordinated balances. But then even when you're looking at them, someone is 35. I'm still youth. I'm in my final lap. Someone is 32, maybe 33. Try not to judge. But when you look at a youth of 24, maybe 18 to 30, you won't find them there. Yes, there are various organizations that have tried to bring them on board, but even with the organizations, it is, okay, you just come into this board meeting, sit, talk, say, we have a youth representative, but are your views being captured? Are you influencing policies? When they talk about certain aspects, do you have a mind that interprets them, that pushes for this? So I must say, at a regional basis, we don't see so much of the youth involvement and participation, and that is why we are trying to push so hard and cry for an East African Youth Council, the way we have the National Youth Council in Uganda. So can we have, I think Rwanda has, Kenya, can Tanzania have one, so that youth have a streamlined center of representation and opportunities are created. So if we have, let's say, an SG in our East African Youth Council from, let's say, this country, then the youth feel represented and they know they have a seat at the deciding table. So I must say for now, we don't see it. Hopefully, as they revise the East African youth policy, we get to see more opportunities created, more spaces, and more involvement of young people, because I think there's no ESC without the young people of the ESC. When the old generation is gone, who do they leave it to? Do we start to cry back to what the Jomo Kenyattas and the Uhurus were praying for? Where do we leave their vision? Where do we leave that history and the greater East African picture that we would want to have? So it takes even the young to be brought out in that understanding and vision if we are to keep the candle burning and if we are not to frustrate the things they have put in energy and dedication to build.
As we sum up this conversation, what kind of Africa do you envision for young people?
The kind of Africa I envision for young people is one that allows you to coexist with the world around you. Sometimes as African youth, you are structured in a box. It is not beyond either your village, if you've been to university, not beyond your university. If you've been maybe in certain spaces, not beyond your country, you're too locked in. So at the end of it all, my vision for Africa is youth that are able to feel the zeal and potential and call of them being Africans. You are Pan-African to an extent that if there is something in, let's say, Nigeria, you're able to relate and gravitate to it because you are an African youth. So youth that can hold themselves together, if we're saying SEFTA as vision 2030 or 2060, are we all together? Are we moving together? Do we all understand this? So my vision for African youth is youth that have realized their potential, youth that are gravitating to be bigger and bigger and not smaller, but also knowing that they have great potential and calling in them that can push them to be at a global scene if they can harness the oneness from the ground. If we can hold our hands, then to the top, the journey to the top must be easier and swifter because we are united and we have a common vision. And also for the growth of Africa, I think the youth will push Africa to where it is supposed to be with our various energies and innovative minds. Africa could be a great continent.
Our videos where we see speakers of parliament across the globe have not come into an agreement with the members they sit with, usually make rounds on social media. But what is that one sitting or policy you remember gave you hard time or even stood out for you during your time as speaker?
So one thing I could talk about, if I'm to remember, been quite many things we got to discuss on, but majorly the one that was looking at inclusion of the young people in these various youth spaces, because you get to understand when everyone notices power, they are hungry and triggered to, gravitate towards it. There's that kind of thing that comes up in them. And when you're talking about inclusivity and power and everyone, it is, we want this, we want it like this. It is, okay, you want it, then how are we going to get there? Do we use force? Do we negotiate? So seeing such policies and discussions, I must say that was a debate that got me thinking. There's so much with our various members saying, okay, maybe we also need to have marriages to influence integration, and in the whole discussion. And it went bigger from how do we relate in various educational spaces. Can there be, let's say, an ESC scholarship for an exchange programs, that if I'm Ugandan, I can get a scholarship to maybe now go to Kenya or Tanzania and study there. Can they do the same this side? So I think one of the heated ones were on inclusion, to see that the youth really want to see this space open up. They want to get in and see what is there, especially the Ugandan youth and Kenyan youth, who are a bit more. I think others are still a little bit curtailed by the policies in their countries, but the two countries are proven to have youth that are fast forward and vigilant and energetic and know where they want to go.
What if all secondary and primary schools in East Africa were running on one curriculum? Yes, I know you are thinking about it like we are all studying the same stuff. Like it would be easy for someone to cross over from one country to another, just in case maybe their parents have moved and they'll need to like transition with the education. It wouldn't really cost that much time. That has been it from me, Shibanaka Kande, your host, and today's phenomenal guest, Belinda Amanya, the 6th Speaker of the East African Youth Parliament. Keep it locked to the Edu Spect Podcast for more conversations about education in East Africa. Peace. I'm out.